Is there something about Calgary that's hindering our cultural growth? Does our economy, infrastructure, or lifestyle preclude a musical renaissance? Ever since 2005, Calgary has gained national attention due to its involvement in the tar sands of northern Alberta. This boom has brought economic prosperity to the city. In the early fall of 2008, Maclean's magazine had an article that boldly claimed Calgary was Canada's most cultured city, leaving cities like Montreal and Toronto in its chuckwagon dust. We asked urban Calgarians and their suburban counterparts if the Maclean's article stating Calgary's position as top cultured city was accurate when related to the independent music scene. Here's what they said.
I have to say no, because I don't think there's enough live bands in Calgary compared to most cities that I've been to. All over the world. I mean, like, Calgary has probably...
Like, they have festivals, right?
They have good live bands, right? But I seriously don't think that there's not enough live bands, live shows in bars and stuff.
I see the Maclean's article as talking about the potential that Calgary has within our independent music scene and within our cultural industry itself. We have a lot of talent and a lot of budding prospects, but not necessarily anybody that's come to the forefront of the music industry yet.
I think it makes perfect sense. I think Calgary is totally the most cultured city in Canada from the way they look at it, just spending. And I think Calgarians have more money than anyone else and spend more money than anyone else. And I think for the independent artist, the secret is to really go find it, because it's out there in this city. And so I think that it's sort of true. Like, we're not the oldest cultured scene, but I bet we're one of the most spend-friendly.
I definitely think that there's a lot more shows coming into Calgary with different genres of music, but I say Victoria is probably ahead of the game on more of the indie, kind of independent music scene.
As far as Maclean's goes, saying it's cultured music scene, not really. I mean, they're just built a $25 million pedestrian bridge downtown and trying to make budget cuts for more arts. But what's that arts? I didn't see anything listed in music in there.
Montreal is far superior as far as that goes, I'd say.
I can't imagine that Calgary would be the best.
Personally, I don't see too many bands in Calgary. Not like you do out there. It seems like there's a lot more different kinds of bands and younger groups out there. So.
And all the bars that we went to, there's always independent bands playing.
And just one after another, and I don't see that here. Maybe I'm not going to the right places though.
Canadian music often achieves critical acclaim and commercial success on an international level. Montreal and Toronto are famous for their thriving independent music scenes, and their local bands enjoy a lot of visibility. Can Calgary really be Canada's most cultured city? Perhaps there's really something about Montreal, Toronto, and Vancouver, or perhaps it's all a matter of perception.
Montreal's scene, I mean, we all know that it kind of exploded in about 5 years ago with bands Arcade Fire and the Deers and Stars and so on. A lot of that work had been accomplished inadvertently over the previous 20 years. Montreal, because of economic depression as much as anything, is a fairly cheap place to live for much of that period of time. You could have a large apartment in a large city right downtown and not pay a lot of money for it. And that's a great thing if you're a starving artist. You don't have to spend a lot of money on rent. Food there isn't terrifically expensive, and so it became a bit of a magnet for people engaged in the arts from all over North America. And you can see that in the makeup of a lot of the bands. Most of them aren't actually people from Montreal, they're from other cities. And various other things make it so that it's harder to sustain the live scene, and that hurts the bands, because frankly, if you're at that stage of development, you really need to be playing out a lot. You need an audience that is prepared to go out and see you fairly regularly. It's how you get better as a band. It's also how you make, if not a lot of money, you make perhaps a bit of a living doing it. So.
And I thought you were the moon in the sky, but it turned out you were just a street light. You were burning like a hole in the night,
It also has the signal advantage of 4 universities, which means it has the highest student to population ratio on the continent. And students being students, they like to go out, have fun at clubs, drink, and that helps to sustain a fairly vigorous live scene, a live music scene. So some of those things helped with Montreal. Calgary has a live music scene, but I think part of it is we're not overly blessed with venues for indie rock music. A lot of our live music venues are actually given over to country or to roots music, and that seems to be a much bigger part of our scene here. And generally we're dealing with fewer venues anyway. The overheads for running these places are more expensive. Again, that's part of the cheap, expensive rent scenario.
Yeah. I don't know if we'll stay here. I don't really know if we'll call another place home so much as just sort of a base for when we're not touring. Just as a place. I mean, money is a huge thing too because it's so expensive to live in Calgary. So if we're not even going to be here for most of the time, we're paying the rent and all that to be here, where we don't really benefit much from the privileges of Calgary, like the salaries that you make in like the oil business or whatever. So you go to a place like Montreal or a place like Brooklyn or something like that where it's more people in the artist mindset. It's cheaper, things are closer.
Use whatever adversity you're faced with to fuel you creatively or whatever. I think that the ability for somebody to do that is awesome, but also for an artist to have the ability to work with whatever their surroundings end up being, but then also be put in a place where their surroundings are more conducive to the art they're creating and help them in their the creation of the art, and also more inspiring in positive ways as opposed to in just ways that start fire in the middle of your chest,
If we were at the level we're at now, say even 5 years ago, then yeah, we'd probably consider moving. But because of internet and the accessibility it gives you in the markets around the world and everything, that it doesn't really matter where you're based from, that you can tap into different markets.
Anyone of interest, and if anyone, industry or not, wants to know anything about us, they look at our MySpace and we'll know everything in 5 minutes.
Yeah, like for instance, yesterday, like online store purchase, someone bought our CD from Germany. I mean, I don't think it matters if we were in Toronto or Vancouver.